Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Strings and Pages, and I'm Kevin Sullivan, your host. We are reading the Rings of Hydra's Great Escape. We are on chapter 12. David woke in the middle of the night and couldn't fall back asleep. It was dark and quiet, but he decided to get some fresh air. Sleeping together in such a tiny abode was rough sometimes, and stepping outside was something he did often. He made some noise getting up and out, but not enough to disturb his family's sleep. The stars were out tonight, blinkers and shooters alike, and in big numbers. The Pacific sky was putting on a show. David thought of this place, and of his place in the world. Not just his physical self, but his home, his family, his legacy. He was happy things had gone the way they had with Evans, and he was looking forward to hearing from him again. But right now, David was thinking bigger picture, and not for any reason other than what was in his future and where his mind took him. He thought about how huge the Earth is. Even the one cluster he lived in, on the ring it belonged to. Inside the single set of rings in the Pacific Ocean, it all made him feel so insignificant. There was much out there to find and see, and yet, making even a small move from one cluster to another seemed impossible without divine intervention. A wave of frustration. He had to dodge it. Something came over him, and he decided to climb as high as he could, up the stack of cubes. The home David's family lived in was one of three, set upon each other in staggered fashion, each with a little ramp leading down to street level. This made it easy to get to the top of the stack, though he had to be quiet so he wouldn't wake those neighbors who lived inside them. This was like climbing on top of someone's shoebox of a home and expecting them not to hear it. He moved like a ninja, reached the top of the ramp, and didn't stop there. Instead, he climbed the last cube to sit on its roof. Once atop the structure, it was evident. The view was worth the climb. David couldn't exactly see the ocean, but he had a clear view across his cluster and into the next, where larger, fancier buildings reached upwards towards the heavens. A cascade of black shapes reached out before him, built of an endless collection of right angles and of various lengths. Some had small lights or antennas about them, but most were just variations of the lifeless black, aside from the smokestacks. Scattered generators powering the neighborhood nightlife. It was a beautiful but sobering sight. This maze he lived in, it was endless, the same for miles in every direction. He felt trapped, and yet something inside him made him smile. That tiny light, faint and dark. It was a lifetime of small rewards for brutally hard work. But something had changed. His spirits were raised by the prospect that something good was finally coming his way. He thought this premature celebration was dangerous. He was counting on things that had not yet happened. David sat on the cube for the rest of the hour. He continued counting shooting stars, made it up to 20. The sky was alive tonight, so were David's hopes. In this desperate place, in a life of one disappointment after another, David Hagen felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps it was his brother's wishes, talking just yesterday about getting out of here. Perhaps his words had lit that fuse on some explosion of cosmic events. Or maybe that didn't matter, and the fact was that David had always been regimented enough to stay and get up every day, keeping himself healthy and active, work hard and stay motivated. Maybe he had set his own course, and this was simply par for it. In any case, David was so excited to hear back from Evans, so excited to start a new job, and beyond excited to offer his family something that would change the way they saw the world, that he knew he wouldn't be able to fall asleep anytime soon. Unfortunately, he and Joe were still sewer workers, still paid prisoners of the lock, where they would be expected bright and early tomorrow morning, and judging by past events, he had no idea what to expect from the day. Slowly and quietly, David climbed down from the cube tops and went back inside his own. He slipped into his bed, kissed his wife and son goodnight, and fell slowly asleep. "Can I get you another cup?" Joe asked. "It's on me today." David rubbed his eyes as they stood in front of the secure entrance, waiting for work to begin. Hopefully, they would not be diving today. They had told everyone about the run-in with the shark, but no one got the story quite like they did. The Hagans were brave and capable, but that shark was something else. It put the fear of God in them, and they were hoping to have one more day out of the water. "Do I look that bad?" David asked. Joe slapped his back. "Not really, bro. I'm just messing with you. What happened? Couldn't sleep?" David gulped his tea and handed Joe the empty cup. "Something like that. And yes, I'll have another." Joe happily stuck his eye to the ROH vendor's scanner for another cup of caffeinated beverage on his dime. The vendor refilled the cup with a smile. "Thank you, brother." "Thanks," David said, accepting the cup. The steam from the hot tea smelled of honey and deliciousness as he decided to sip this one. "Why not just ditch this shithole now?" Joe said under his breath. "Just take it easy for a little bit before, "Because we don't know," David said. "Not for sure. And that's not how you do it anyway, brother. You know this. Gotta line one gig up solid before you jump ship onto the other." Joe scratched his head. "Yeah, I know," he said. It was time for work. After getting scanned in, the group of 20-something workers assembled in the yard beyond the gates. All were quiet, as was the case on most mornings, especially Monday mornings. Each minute was precious now, for at any moment the establishment would hand out assignments and expect immediate compliance. The short time these men and women called their own was quickly dwindling. In fact, it was gone. The boss came into the yard with a roll call list in his glass. Everyone perked up to see where they would be working for the day. It took a few minutes for the boss to get down to the brothers' names, giving them time to sweat it out. "Hagen," the boss said, "and Hagen. Eventually, I'll remember there's two of you, David and Joe." "Here," the brothers answered in unison. "Good," the boss said. "Good morning, guys. You'll be in the soup today. Dive team. Bay 7, I believe. I'll double check on that, but in the meantime, gear up for dive." The boss didn't know about the great white that had shown up last time to say hi and kill everyone. Or maybe he did. Neither David nor Joe told him directly, but it was highly conceivable that he'd have heard it from someone. It seemed like he thought he was doing them a favor handing them this assignment. There was no apology or concern in his voice. He said it like it was nothing at all. Just an easy day of swimming around in the sea. Joe wished the boss was in the water with him last week, to witness his brother save his life with a welding torch. He was sure the boss would have shot himself. "Come on, man," David said, smacking Joe's back. "Let's just get on with it. There's no way that could happen twice in a row." Joe gave his brother a look of mild disgust. "Yeah, there definitely is, Dave. Those animals aren't stupid. Sure, they're just giant fish, but if they found a food source here amid all these helpless, dangling bodies, there's a good chance they'll return." He almost asked the boss right there if any of the prisoners had been mistakenly eaten lately. Then he figured he didn't want to know. Okay, Dave, lead the way." The brothers made their way nervously from the yard into the gear-up, dragging their feet into the area where the tanks and masks were kept. David took off his clothes and stepped into the gel wall where the aqua substance began to weave a suit onto his body. "I'll tell you what," he said. "I don't feel like going back in the water either, but this part, I would really love to wear one of these things every day. Man, I should have been enforcer. You could have been one, Joe said. I think me too. It's in our blood. Not necessarily our bloodline, but our blood nonetheless. David stepped out of the wall and checked himself over. I think we'd make the cut, he said. Anyway, you're up. Joe sighed and disrobed, stepped towards the gel wall. He was about to get in when the boss entered the gear locker. Hold on, he yelled while running in. Put your clothes back on, Hagen. You guys aren't going in, at least not today. The brothers exchanged a glance. So what? David asked. Keep mine on? The boss looked down at his tablet and raised his eyebrows. No, he said. You won't be wearing that today either. Then he muttered, That's a waste of about 40,000 credits. The glimmer of hope came alive in David once again. Joe was already biting his nails in suspense. Neither said a word. With a shake of his head, the boss said, I don't know who you guys are, but there's a cab coming for you both, right now. You're being transferred. To where, I have no idea. And it seems a little abrupt. I could have used you both today. I guess I'll have to fill someone else in your spot because this is coming straight from the domain. He let his tablet flop into his thigh. His arms crossed over it. That's it, guys. You're dismissed. David and Joe turned to each other with a smile that increased until they erupted in laughter. They embraced each other in happiness. I told you, Joe said. I told you this would happen. Where are you guys going? The boss asked. The brothers looked at him, still mid-hug, then began cracking up even harder. We're not going to be lunch for your killer pet shark, Joe said, nearing tears. That's for sure. Defeated, the boss turned and exited Gear Up. Cut me out of this amazing thing, David said, also wiping his cheek. This was it. It was real now. The Hagen boys were being transferred to the Build to Own program. They didn't know exactly how or where the grounds were located, but they would soon find out. Besides, anywhere that wasn't here could only be a positive. Joe grabbed a hooked utility blade from the bench and cut his brother from the gel suit. Once changed, they made their way out of the lock, hopefully for the last time in their lives. The cab cruised down the Solar Road, through the downtown cluster, and onto a larger stretch that headed straight south. The Hagen boys enjoyed the view of the various neighborhoods they passed alongside the highway, most of them pleasing to the eye. Where do you think we'll end up exactly? Joe asked. David shrugged. This is your baby, he said. I thought you would know better than I. All I know is that we're headed south, and I would imagine the only unused space would be Ring Edge. Can you believe we're about to stake our claim, brother? We are going to build our own home. How many people on this ring can say that? Very few, Joe. Very few. It was all smiles in the back of the hover cab. They had been traveling for 15 minutes and loving every second of it. To make things just a little sweeter, the viewing glass on the center console came alive with a familiar face. Evans! They both shouted from the back seat. I'm looking for a few good men, Evans said, as soon as the connection had been made. It's an ancient movie reference, forget it. I see you both made it out of the lock alive. Thank you, Evans, Joe said, 1,000 times over. Thank you. I can't even tell you how happy I am. Hold on, Joe, David said. Let the man speak. We don't even know what he's going to say. Joe looked blankly for a moment and realized his brother was right. They had been pulled from the lock, and that was great. But that's all they knew for sure. I want you guys to know that I had to pull some strings really hard, Evans said. More like ropes. All the units in the program were spoken for. There's only so much space, know what I mean? I think I do, David said, but I'm a little foggy on... You're in, guys, David said. And get this, not just one unit, but two. I was able to make slots for both of you. You're both getting new cubes. I mean, you have to build them, but Joe hollered from his seat, started fist pumping and slapping the seat in front of him. "You are the man, Evans!" "How did you get us in if they were all filled up?" David asked. The digital face that was Evans smiled and nodded as he said, "Let's just say that sometimes in life, things come down to who you know. And that's not to say I'm anything special. It's who I know that made the difference." David wanted more answers. In the back of his mind hung a shred of guilt, the realization that he might be putting someone else out of a home, perhaps someone who had a wife, a child. Then he realized he was that person. No one needed this more than he did. The guilt was ultimately easy to overcome, especially sitting next to the ball of positive energy that his brother was. "You're something special in my book, Evans," Joe said. "You're telling me that not only don't I have to go into that soggy hell for work anymore, but on top of that, I also get to build my own home?" He shook his head as he said into the glass, "Enforcer Evans, you forever have my gratitude." "I couldn't have said it better," David added. "We all owe you a great deal." Evans shook his head. "Nah, don't mention it. I'm happy to extend a hand when I see genuine people who genuinely need that hand. I have never met a family who better fits this description. No offense meant by that, by the way." "None taken," both Hagans replied in unison. "And with that," Evans said, "I'll let you enjoy the rest of your day. Thomas is the job site foreman. He's civilian, not GAD. From what I understand, he's knowledgeable about the program, and of course about you both. He'll be waiting for you. I've got to run." David leaned into the glass and said, "Thank you, Evans. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you." "Thank you, Evans. I love you," Joe added loudly. Evans laughed, and his face disappeared, leaving the glass tablet dead, and the hearts of the cab's occupants alive like they had never been. In short order, they would be receiving instructions for building the rest of their lives. Well, that's chapter 12, The Great Escape. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your ears and your attention. Maybe a like or a subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Love you. See you on the page.